LS Luxus, wendig, schnell, elegant. Sportlich, spritzig, preiswert. BMW LS Luxus. Luxus für 4.985 Mark.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. It's a great pleasure to be invited. Thank you, Eric, for making the contact. I'm also obviously a bit nervous because I'm working in an industry that's well known for bending sheet metal and building good engines, maybe. So Eric pointed at this earlier. This is what I know. I don't know much about service design. I'm trying to understand it, and I will ask Eric later again what a customer journey map is. It's the first time I'm hearing of this. But I'm trying to entertain you this morning a little bit with some BMW thinking. I'm personally responsible for user experience, UX, UI design within the design group of BMW. It's about 650 people globally, 400 people in Munich, and I'm one of them. And I come across service design more and more often, which is one of the main reasons I'm speaking here this morning. Okay, the title Digital Emotional. I want to explain a bit more what I would like to focus on this morning. I think it's all known to you and very clear that the digital world is very rapidly influencing the automotive industry. It's something new to us. Like I said, we're good in making hardware. Most of the designers at BMW are very good in thinking geometry. They're product designers in the best way possible. But with digital, there are new opportunities. There are challenges as well to an automotive company, but I personally look at it very positively. I look at the future in a way that I think we can make products better by introducing service design and by coming up with smart combinations of a very analog product and possibly digital services as we all invent them today. There's two things that are kind of beneath digitalization, and that is very often talked about these days. Number one is autonomous driving. We are talking a lot about driverless cars. Google is introducing cars that drive you around, and maybe one of the important services will go away, which is driving a car, taxi driving, cab driving, for example. And the second, for us, even more important topic is electro mobility, kind of introducing engine concepts, zero emission concepts that at some point of time will definitely replace the combustion engine. And again, there's new experiences that we can create with those two technologies, around those two technologies, and they're really also creating new experiences for people on the move, people that use mobility to get from A to B. And for me personally, my background is in product design. I'm very interested in the interior of the car. Here I think we can make a huge change. Currently this is about 4 seats, all facing forwards, and in the future the space might be much more about what you can do in the car, and we're currently, in the context of service design, trying to find out what people really do in the car when they not drive, or what they can do in the future. So let me show you a couple of slides that give a bit of context of the time frame we are in. As I've said, BMW is very well known for building cars, for building very, very good cars, quite emotional products. We call them the driving machines, and they deliver ultimate pleasure in driving. You know the core sentence of BMW, sheer driving pleasure in English. And this is really all about optimizing an experience in driving. And very often, as you can see on the left, this is about the driver, the one single person that's behind the steering wheel. Not so much the other people in the car, the kids on the back seat, maybe even the passenger who is sitting next to you. I think we've achieved a great level of quality, especially when it comes to the driver. Great ergonomics, a cockpit that is ergonomically angled towards the driver, instruments right inside. Everything is focused on that single person that's steering the car. And now, today, and over the next few years, we're facing a time where the car might become a digital device in a much larger network of mobility. And this is something that is exciting on one hand, I believe. When you see the concepts around autonomous driving, for example, they give new opportunities. But on the other hand, it is also a bit scary because the car is becoming kind of an object that what in the past many people felt very emotional about is becoming more of a thing that you can replace also after a couple of years. So not really something you dream about at night, more of an object that fulfills a purpose. And then the third stage, which is maybe about 10, 15 years from now, we estimate, is that the car, as I've said, is becoming more of a lifestyle space, maybe something like a second living room, maybe something we can do a lot of other things in than just driving. And obviously this time focuses on everyone in the car. So it focuses also on the rear seat bay, it focuses on different seating experiences. Maybe you can move around in the car. Maybe you don't even face forward in the future. So this is a progression that's very important for us to understand. And when it comes to service design, obviously, there's many opportunities along the way to create new experiences. And then the second kind of fact that we're dealing with, that is a change in consumer behavior and user behavior. And that is something you also all very well understand. It is what we call an experience-savvy person. And this is because there's a plethora of new disruptive services that have formed over the last few years. Think about Alibaba, think about Airbnb, Uber, and so on. And all of these services, they very often don't have a product such as we. They don't have hotel rooms, yet they're renting overnight stays in New York at a greater rate, at a greater percentage than any of the hotels in New York. Secondly, there's fidelity and performance, and this is about people using their mobile devices in a very comfortable, natural way nowadays. And this is because it all accelerated very quickly over the last 10 years. We now carry a very powerful computer around with us, hold it in our hands, and it actually somewhat also separates us from the life that's going on around us. We're one with this little device that gives us great performance, great information, and so on. And when it comes to information, connectedness and upgradability, updatability is a very important aspect. We're never conflicted with old or aged information. We are having always the latest stuff 24/7 in our hand. So that means there's a high expectation that I'm not dealing with something that's 2 to 3 years old. And connect that to the car, where you buy an object that has, for example, a navigation system in it with mapping, and after 2 years, those maps are obsolete. And you ask your dealer, can I update my system? And the person says, like, I'm very sorry, the head unit doesn't take new software, so you have to live with the maps that are in your car. What are you doing? You're switching to your Google system in your pocket. So facts that we have to deal with as an automotive company, and we're open to face it. I want to use one other example that I think is kind of an obvious thing to consider when you combine hardware and also software or digital design. While at Frog a few years ago, I was the head of the Frog Munich studio. We worked for a global communication player, and within a larger program that we've conducted some research on communication behavior, call centers, and the use of desktop telephony, we were also supposed to redesign their hardware portfolio. This was a portfolio of desktop phones, as you see here on the picture. And the plan was to mount a new, larger color display on top of the phone, maybe add a few buttons to it and make it even more versatile, more powerful. But as you can also understand is that we're talking here about a product that might be obsolete after all. It might not be relevant anymore to people. So we, while working with this company, talked about a much needed iconic change. People already switched to using their mobile phones at the workplace, and this gray box on your desk for most of the time was not used anymore. So here is an industry that has a great product, great quality, probably the best audio quality you can find on a phone, yet it is not used anymore, it is not relevant anymore. So the question really begs, is this still a hardware story? And we at BMW obviously have to ask ourselves that question. Two examples of companies that I personally think are doing a very good job in terms of transformation. And not only transformation, but also based on a philosophy and principles, they offer something that I think is fresh, and it always has been fresh in the context of new services and offering something of relevance. The first company you cannot guess from this photo, I'll tell you it's Aerco. Aerco is a German lighting company. They produce lighting fixtures, primarily for the public sector. They're lighting most of the major museums around the world. They're also doing private lighting, but mostly they're responsible for lighting some of the spaces we really like to go to look at art, for example, very nice interior spaces that provide information that are a pleasure to be in. But Aerco once claimed the sentence, we're not selling lamps, we're not selling light fixtures, we're selling light. And this is basically the result that's coming from their fixtures. There's no doubt about that their light fixtures are great, but in no catalog or anywhere in their advertisement you see them talking particularly about the quality of their light fixtures. They're talking about the quality of the result, so what people do with it and what people can get from it. So a great company and a great example if you want to study an industry that's selling something of relevance. And the second example may be very different, but also quite interesting. And this is about aircraft engines. The company Rolls-Royce Engines has basically shifted their entire business model to a service. They're not selling engines anymore. I think they started to sell engines, very expensive products, very expensive to airlines in the first place. They then shifted to service and maintenance and also selling spare parts of their engines. So basically these things have to be maintained. The rotors have to be replaced after a certain time. But this market also became very competitive to them. There were other companies from Asia, for example, selling spare parts at a much lower rate than Rolls-Royce could ever do. So the last stage of their transformation shifted to just selling runtime. They're selling not an engine anymore, they're selling engine power by the hour, which is very interesting. If you will, you see the next stage, we're going from products to services to maybe hot air. Hot air is worth a lot to an airline, and they bought into this business model. Rolls-Royce basically convinced pretty much all of their customers that it is much more efficient to not buy a product, but to just rent it for the time of life. So there are good examples around us, around BMW, that we want to look at very closely and see what does it mean for our industry and for the car industry. And I think at the end, and this was already in the introduction, it is about anticipating user needs, understanding what is really relevant for people, because otherwise they will not use a product anymore, they will not use a service either, because it is not relevant to us. So relevance is one of the most important words to us today. And I think it is always important to ask that question back from user observation, from seeing how people are using things and what they are actually using to find what is relevant. Because the adoption rate is very important to us, kind of how long it will take to adopt a product, and then also the time it is abandoned. Very often people use an app, use a service for a very short time and put it away if it's not relevant anymore. Now, I want to switch over and talk a bit more about BMW. And I'll give you a number. I don't tell you yet what it means, but we'll get back to it. And maybe while we look at the next few images, you can think about this number, and maybe I will ask a couple of you what it might mean. 8515. As you've seen in the beginning in the movie, the LS700, a car from 1963, it was advertised back then as sporty, nimble, and also affordable. 4,995 Deutsche Mark, 2,500 euros by today's currencies. So quite cheap, quite affordable, very successful. I think BMW sold about 200,000 of those between 63 and 65. And we continued to build great cars, emotional products that actually some people are craving for. We're doing this since 100 years, so we better be good at it. And there have been good products like this one, for example. I just picked a random image out of the Google library of great BMW cars, an M1. And I want to make the claim that we are good at this. We know this, we know how to bend sheet metal, and we know how to create very emotional analog products. When it comes to my job, this is about communication with the person in the car, primarily the driver. And this is an icon which you found in the car in '63, you also found in the M1 a few years later, and you find in the latest 7 Series today. It helps you to understand the status of the car. It communicates with you. It gives you a very clear message that if this thing writes red, you better stop the car, or you kind of worry to get to a dealer as quickly as possible. Very clear communication. Really? Just because today, when we design a new car, let's say currently the new 5 Series is in launch, the 7 Series which was launched last year, we're designing a new operating system for the car, a new graphical user interface and an interface architecture underneath. I'm telling you the truth in saying that the UX UI team in BMW is designing round about 1,000 icons for a car today. So there's 1,000 icons that communicate with you as the driver. And I'll have to admit here that I don't know all of them. I don't know what they actually mean. And let's do this here with you because it's still early in the morning. Let's do a quick test and ask you, what is this one, for example? Maybe Eric. Okay, we have battery charge and maybe another try. Car wash, okay. Oh, have fun. Okay, this one is a little harder. Okay. Let's say, don't smoke under the shower. Okay, good, okay. That is, yeah, that's a great one. I have to, feed that back to BMW. And then the last one, how about that one? What is this? Driving in the future. Wow, that's also very cool. Yeah, so we have don't smoke under the shower and driving in the future. Well, let me reveal it. The first one was actually quite good. Car wash, there's problem in the car wash, so you're maybe not on track and a warning, a light comes up and it tells you to better stop and to adjust something. I don't know what. The second one is about adding blue, add blue. Okay, I get a time sign. Add blue, and this means you have to add a certain liquid to the engine, otherwise it gets damaged. And the third one means basically sailing. It's an economic way of driving the car. So, for example, downhill, you have to take the foot of the pedal to drive more economically. So again, the question around, are we really good at this? I think there are others, and you know the example, that are better at it, and we learn a great deal from them. They're asking questions in a much more natural way. They're anticipating what you want, and they're learning. They're getting better at what they do. The oil lamp is still the same since 55-something years. They're getting better, and they're getting better very fast. So I'm claiming that we're not good at this, or let's say not yet good at this, but we're learning. I want to make one claim, and this is about appealing on all levels. When you connect the few things I've showed you, I've talked about visceral product experience, and this is about the analog qualities in a product. And we can do this, we're doing this very well. It's about aesthetics, it's about functionality, ergonomics, and so on. And there is a new level, which we all have to think about more and more, which is experiential. This is behavioral. It happens over time. Sometimes it comes as a surprise, and we like surprises. Sometimes it is invisible. But it is about usability, contextual intelligence, and flexible customization, personalization. So combining those two things is about an integrated, seamless experience. And then I believe the car can be relevant again. So looking at how we can combine emotional analog experiences and behavioral qualities is the key to the future. Back to my number, 8515. I think you can guess by now what it means. And it's basically two different things. Number one, I personally would say, and I don't have the precise numbers, this is more of an estimate, that we at BMW, we spend 85% of our time, of our entire work time, of perfecting the analog experience. We're working on the product, we're bending sheet metal. Only 15%, or let's say a much smaller part, we're spending on the experience over time. So again, I think the second meaning is also important when you think about perfecting an analog product. You think about it up until this point, it changes ownership. When we give it to someone and we receive a payment, it's not ours anymore. We're not spending time on it anymore. So you can also say the 15 stands for something that happens after we've sold the car. So here's an opportunity for us to spend much more time with it. I'm not saying it has to be 50-50, but I'm saying it has to be in balance. So think about service design in the context of product design. I think the two have a yin-yang quality or meaning in terms of spinning off of each other and doing great things together. So I'm getting to the end of the presentation, and I'm using a composition of one of our products that I personally like very much, and the context of a city, the connected city. Maybe scenarios such as drive now, share, car sharing services, and so on. And again, I would say that when we think about service design, think about the context and think about a delivery mechanism. The car itself can be a delivery mechanism for great mobility services. And I want to close with another movie, which is fun to watch. Again, it's still early in the morning, the conference is starting, and I wish all of you a pleasurable time here in Amsterdam.
Einsteigen! Oh, so exciting! Wow, geht's wieder! Safety first.
Good, good, good.
Oh, look at that mirror.
Oh my
The mirror.
goodness.
Do you see that? Oh, there's plenty of room.
So, auf Start drücken.
And look at this.
Oh.
Oh, look. ¿Está bien cerrado? Sí, ¿no? Es ja voll easy.
That is really good. So quiet.
It's just like, whoosh.
It's criminal. That's Pete. How quiet we're going. Look at that, it's braking by itself. I can't believe that.
It
That's
really
so
is.
good.
Wenn ich vom Gas gehe, bremst der sofort.
Sí, señor, este coche es mío.
Madrid, Madrid, Madrid.
We are in the middle of London and we are causing zero pollution.
Eintritt in den Hyperraum.
Komm, komm, Warpgeschwindigkeit.
Oh my God, mine did.
Now der Power. Wohin sein?
Oh, Juan. Qué gran vía. Juan Luis, con todos los que me da.
súper guay. Nehmen wir.
War cool.
Look at that. All those people out there living their lives when we're in here living in the future.